Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new around here, my name is Divyanka and I'm a doctor of pharmacy here in the US. On this channel, I strive to provide you resources to build your ideal professional life. And today we are talking about things to not say in an interview. I personally have gone through many interviews and sometimes nerves just get to you. You're not thinking clearly in the moment and you say something that you don't want to really say. Now, although you probably can't avoid that completely, the best way to not say something you don't want to is to prepare. Even if you just listen to this video, it'll be something that sits in you subconsciously and you probably will have it in the back of your mind. So if something like this video or other types of prep help you in making sure that you don't make those silly mistakes, definitely utilize those things in your interview prep. I'm going to be going over 14 things you should absolutely never say in an interview and what to say instead. Without further ado, let's just get right into it. Oh man, I'm really nervous. Even though probably all of us feel nervous in an interview, it's definitely not something we should outwardly say. Instead, if you're going to be showing those nerves, that kind of excitement, then maybe say, oh, I'm really excited about this position, and give it the term excitement, especially if you're going to be showing some of those nervous traits. Obviously, saying I'm excited paints a way better picture than saying I'm nervous, and it's a mental thing. If you say that I'm nervous, you're convincing yourself that you're nervous, and those negative feelings that come with being nervous are going to be able to take over. If you vocalize I'm excited, again, mentally, that gets us in a completely different mode, and you will probably perform better in that interview. Lastly, excitement is contagious. If you are going to be excited about it, and your tone and your body language and maybe some of those nervous antics show that, the other person is going to get excited about your excitement, and the interview in general will go so much better. Could you give me an overview of the company's profile, pipeline, and overall products? Okay, come on, you guys know this one. Don't ever ask about what the company is about in the interview. That shows your unpreparedness, that shows disinterest. It's just not a good look. You didn't do your research, you didn't prepare, and that would be the only reason you're asking that question. Instead, you really want to make sure you're prepared for that interview, you do your research on that company, and you bring it up in the interview. So there's a few ways you can do that. The first can be when you're asking the person questions. So you can say something like, hey, while I was browsing on the company's website, I noticed XYZ. Thought this was really interesting. Could you dive more into XYZ? And however you want to phrase that question, it can be a question where you bring up that, hey, look, I did this research. I learned this about the company. Can you tell me more? The other way to infuse it, which is definitely preferable, it's harder to do, but if you can do it, it's such a good look, is infuse it into your answers. So if you've been asked a question and you're answering it, maybe midway be like, oh yeah, in terms of interest, I noticed that this company is doing this and it aligns with my interest because of this. And even if that's not what the question is about, being able to pull those things into your answer really shows that, again, you've done your research, you're prepared, and you're really interested in this company. Oh, the answer to that question is on my resume. Even if the information you're being asked is stated on your resume, don't outwardly say that. More often than not, if you're being asked a question, the person has already read your resume, so they're definitely asking for a reason. Saying, oh, it's on my resume kind of has that negative connotation of, maybe you didn't read the resume, or it's there, I don't want to talk about it, and you don't want to give any of those notions. My recommendation would be to answer that question like you would if it wasn't on your resume, and then maybe at the end of your explanation or answer, you say, I know that was on my resume, but I hope my answer gave you more color or gave you a deeper look into it. Something along those lines where you address that, hey, look, I did write that on my resume, but in case you were wondering XYZ, hopefully I gave you a deeper look into it. Hopefully you understand it better. Something along those lines where, again, you're cognizant that it's there, you're expressing that, but you're not outwardly saying that in a rude way. What can I expect in terms of vacation time and benefits? Now, as we all know, money, benefits, vacation time, that's all a very sensitive topic especially when you're interviewing for a position. So the general rule of thumb there is that you don't want to be the first one to bring it up. If you're asked a question about it, then of course answer truly or answer as you wish, but don't be the first one to bring that up, especially in interviews with the hiring manager, with the team, etc. That's usually an HR question that is a completely HR department thing. Your hiring manager, the team will probably have nothing to do with your pay, your vacation, your benefits, etc. So not only is it weird and untimely to ask that in an interview, but you're not even going to get the answer that you're looking for. So why ask that? That type of transactional language you also want to keep to the very end. If you show your value throughout your interview, the company and the team will probably be more than willing to do what you want in terms of that vacation time, benefits, and any other compensation type of things that you're going to be looking for. So definitely show your value first. Don't ask that question in any hiring manager or team interviews. If someone asks you about it, feel free to answer, but definitely wait to have that offer in hand before you ask those types of questions. Oh, I'll do whatever work I'm given. Especially for those of us that feel like we don't have enough experience, we're young professionals, we've only had intern positions. It's really easy to just be like, oh my God, I'll be open to any type of work. And although you have the correct intentions with that, that's not how it's going to come across. When you're interviewing for a position, you want to show that you have chosen that role for a reason. You're not just applying to anything and everything. You want to show why you're interested in that specific role, in that specific company. So by saying that you're going to do anything honestly shows disinterest and shows that you don't know what you want. It shows you're kind of directionless and you're just looking for a job or for experience. And again, it really shows that you're not prepared, you don't know what you want. Moreover, this also kind of shows some kind of desperation. It's like, oh, I'll do whatever work I'm given, just give it to me. You don't want to come off as desperate in any sense in any interview. So definitely beware of how that comes across. And if you're trying to convey that message of, look, I'm open to opportunities, there are definitely better ways to say that. For instance, maybe you say, I know in this role, this is going to be the main job. My experience has been such, and this is why I'm well prepared for this role. But although the role consists of mainly XYZ, I'm definitely open to exploring opportunities as I am pretty early on in my career, and I definitely wouldn't shy away from those opportunities. So again, you're kind of saying the same thing. You're open to anything that's going to be coming your way, but just throwing yourself out there saying, I'll do any work that I'm given is really not a good look. I work well both independently and in a team. Saying that you work well in all environments is really going to come across as a people pleaser answer, so definitely try to stay away from that. In most roles in today's world, you're going to be working both independently and within a team. That's a given. You don't really have an option, so saying that you're good at both isn't really giving flavor to your answer in an interview. It just generally seems like that, again, people pleaser, safe type of answer. Instead, be a little honest, be a little vulnerable, lay out what you naturally like. So if you are an introvert, say that. Say, naturally, personally, I'm an introvert, and so I do like having hours to myself to work independently, but of course, I understand that in this role, there are settings in which we would work in a team, and I have had experience working in a team with XYZ, and that's why I would be open to that as well. Or vice versa, look, naturally, I'm an extrovert, and I really do enjoy and thrive off of being with people and working with people, but sometimes that's a little too much, and I know that I need to focus in and do work on my own. You can even lay out challenges you've had working in a team or working independently, and again, kind of being honest, but don't be negative about anything and don't give that safe answer. Ugh, I hated my last company. Now, obviously, bottom line, you do not want to say anything negative in an interview, whether that's about yourself, about your last company, about your last boss, about the company you're interviewing for, absolutely nothing. In an interview, people are already looking for red flags as to why to not hire you. So why would you give that to them on a silver platter? If you speak negatively about your last company, company. There's nothing that's stopping you to say anything negative about the company that you're going to be working for in the future. And if you do say something negative in an interview, the interviewer is going to catch a glimpse of your worst. And again, you don't just want to hand that to them. Everyone wants to work with someone who's likable, who's personable, who has a generally positive attitude. So again, don't give them a reason to think that you are not that person. Oh no, I don't have any questions for you. If you guys have done any interview prep, you know to ask questions. So first and foremost, never say you don't have any questions. That really, again, shows disinterest in the position, in the role. It can also show that you don't really understand the role, because most of the time, there's not enough time to understand the role, the company, the manager, everything that's involved in the role in the time that you're given, either in the interview or research time or whatever. There's no way you can know everything about this company and about this role. So you must have questions if you're actually assessing this role for yourself. The last thing you want to do is come across as unprepared and disinterested, so make sure you've prepared questions. Now, a little bonus tip here, make sure you've prepared questions that are actually relevant. Don't ask the simple questions that really make it sound like, oh, she's just asking the question for the sake of asking a question. This is your time in an interview. Ask the questions you're really curious about. Ask about their management style. Ask about the team. Ask about the actual work. This is also a great time to actually show your knowledge of the company, of the role, things that the interviewer didn't ask you about. You can easily bring things up that you want them to know and then turn it back around and ask them a question about it. Again, you're adding more flavor to what your knowledge is to show the interviewer that you are the best person for this role, and you're turning it around and asking them a question. Be involved, show your interest, be extremely deep into the trenches of what this role is, what this company has to offer. And if you ask deep, good questions, you will see yourself definitely excelling through those ranks of interviews much, much more. How did I do in this interview? Now, although we're all curious about how we actually performed in the interview, I don't see many upsides to actually asking this question. Now, this is for multiple reasons. Firstly, the interviewer is probably not going to be honest with you. If you know this beforehand, why ask the question? Because you're not going to get the answer you're looking for anyway. Second, this also shows a kind of weird sense of confidence and straightforwardness in a very negative way. I am all for being straightforward and honest and confident in an interview. I have said things that people probably would not say in an interview, but I think this is the line that I wouldn't cross. The whole purpose of this interview is for them to assess you. So I do think it's a little unprofessional to ask like, hey, how did I do? Because again, that's not really an answer that you should know right then and there. Also, speaking from personal experience, when an interviewer is sitting there talking to you, they probably don't actually know their opinion of you. Most of the time, they're going to have to go back and really assess the whole package. They're going to have to think about the interview, the answers you gave, the things you said. They're going to cross-check it with your resume. They're going to have another look at your resume. They're going to be taking everything into account, and that really does matter when you're looking to hire someone. Also, of course, they're going to have to compare you to the other candidates. And this is all something that you just can't do sitting there in real time. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience. If someone were to ask me in an interview how they did, I honestly wouldn't know because I can't just judge the interview. That conversation might have gone super well, but I might have completely forgotten about what they had on their resume and what other candidates were like. So I really need to go back and assess and then really form my opinion about what I think about this candidate. So overall, I would say this question is a no-go. I just didn't get along with my last boss. Again, there is actually so much wrong in saying this, probably more than you know. First and foremost, back to the speaking negative things, just try to avoid saying anything negative at all. Second, saying something specifically to a last boss, a last manager, a last coworker also shows that you might be someone who's difficult to work with. Nobody else, especially not that interviewer, was in that situation. So even if you were the one who was in the right in that situation with a past manager, with a past boss, with a past coworker, it's probably not going to come across like that. So again, you don't want to paint a picture that's hard to describe. If you've had challenges in the past, you can kind of bring it up as a challenge and then maybe describe the solution that you went with and what the outcome was, especially if that was a positive outcome. But generally, staying away from mentioning anything about conflict is definitely good. Now, I know there's, of course, a question that gets asked a lot in interviews. Tell me about a time you had a conflict with someone. That's a different thing to address, and there are ways to say that, but never ever do you want to say it openly or address something like that in such a negative manner. If you speak negatively about a previous manager, what's to say that you won't speak negatively about your next boss? So again, just stay away from this. I know I don't have much experience, but now this is a hard one, and I speak from experience because, as you probably know, I am a young professional. I've been an intern, I've been a student for many years, and I think a lot of us feel like, oh my God, we don't have enough experience. And although that might be true, A, there's a way to say it, and B, don't undermine yourself. You've still done enough internships. Whatever work experience you do have is definitely worth something. So don't do that to yourself. Don't undermine your own self in an interview. Of course, being cognizant and aware of where you are is definitely a good thing. So I would definitely encourage you to mention it once or twice, but definitely don't go beyond that. Saying maybe once, I know that I am a student or I'm a young professional and I don't have an extensive amount of years of experience, but look at the experience I do have and go into the value of the experience you can bring to the table. When you're applying to a position, especially as a young professional or student, people aren't expecting you to come in with 10 years of experience. They know your position. Even if you're an intern or a student, most of the time in interviews, people are looking for soft skills. And if you can convince them that you're a good person to work with, you have the necessary soft skills that it takes to be successful, the technical stuff can be taught. And more often than not, most people are going into roles that they don't know the technical side of. You need to know some things, but the whole purpose of this role is to challenge you, for you to grow, for you to help the company. So they know that they're going to have to teach you and train you regardless. So don't harp on the fact that you don't have experience, even if you feel like that. Show them the value that you do bring to the table, even if that's just soft skills. Talk to the experience you do have and let them form their own opinion. Again, I do recommend you maybe saying it once because that shows that you're very aware of where you are, but then take that to say that, look, I'm very interested in growing in this industry, in this department, in this role, and if given the opportunity, I would utilize my experience to do XYZ, and I'm so open to learning all that you have to offer. Don't undersell yourself. I have been there. I have said something like that, and you're just selling yourself short. So this is your friendly reminder to just not do that. Oh my God, I just can't imagine anyone more qualified for this position than me. Again, in an interview, you want to show confidence, but not overconfidence, and that is a very fine line. You have no idea who is interviewing for this position, who they're actually looking for, the types of skills that might be perfect for this position. So please, please don't ever say that you think you are the best candidate for this role. Now, of course, you want to show that to them. You want to show the interviewer that, look, hey, based on my past experiences, based on these situations and these activities that I've been a part of, I'd assimilate well into this role, into this group, and I would do the work well. You want to show that to the interviewer through your answers, through your work, through your resume, through your references, etc. But you definitely don't want to just outright say that. And honestly, generally, there is no such thing as a perfect fit for a role. There is a best fit, but there is never going to be a perfect fit. So the last thing you should do is think that you are a perfect fit. Oh yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I have a vacation planned in a few weeks, so if we could plan around that, that'd be great. Again, vacation, time off, things like that, you don't actually ever want to mention during the interview process. Once you have the offer in hand, that is of course something you can openly say to them and let them know that you have a pre-planned vacation you'd like to set your start date or other scheduling around. that's definitely an okay time, but mentioning it in the interview process is honestly really unprofessional and just untimely. That's not what they're looking for, and if you say something like that, that might kind of rub the other person the wrong way. Of course, this is super subjective, but you don't want to give them the idea that you're thinking about your vacation instead of really focusing on looking for a job, or that you're kind of distracted in that way and you're only looking to have a job so that you can go on vacation. Again, that kind of stuff is just insinuated and you can't really control what the other person thinks in that time. So don't say something like that would maybe lead them to thinking that. You want to make sure you're conveying that your priority is this role, is this company, and is this job. So anything that distracts from that, just try to not mention. Oh my God, I cannot explain to you how badly I need this job. Going back to showing desperation, saying something like you really need this role or you really need this job, it's only going to come across as desperation. We all have financial needs, we all have daily job needs, and it might be true that you might need that job, but don't actually outwardly say that. Again, everyone kind of works for that paycheck. It's a given. That's not something they're going to take away from you if you are to get the offer. So don't mention that throughout the process. Don't look desperate for the position. Make them excited about having you on the team. Show them it's an opportunity to have you on the team. Show them your value. And then again, everything else that you want will sort of come with that. You want to show the company or the interviewer through the value that you've brought other companies, or the value you're showing them through your answers and through your resume, that you're actually someone in demand. Show them that other companies are fighting for you. Show them that they should fight for you. That's the kind of competition you should really be harboring. So saying anything that kind of detracts from your value, aka anything that shows desperation, is not going to help your case. That is it for the things that you should never say in an interview. I know some of these things might come across as super obvious, but honestly, when you're sitting there, when you're in your nerves and you're not really thinking, it's really easy to just slip one of these into your answers. Sometimes you don't even notice, and honestly, I've been there. So again, if you just listen to this and it's subconscious, or if you actually prepare, make sure these things are not being said in your interviews. You want to portray yourself in the best way possible, show your best value, show exactly what you bring to the table, and all of these things kind of detract from that. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you can implement these tips into your next interview. Good luck to all of you in the midst of interview prep. Again, as always, I hope this was helpful, and you guys will see me in the next video.